I forgot the quote today because naturally I fucked up. It's just what I do. Mesdames et messieurs, garçons et filles, jokers of all ages, welcome back to the worst fantasy show. I am your host, the Fantasy Joker, aka Jack Lusney. We are in the final stretch of our rookie breakdown series for Fantasy Dynasty 2024. We're capping things off with the tight ends. They usually fuck us over, but we're going to try and parse through this. And I brought on a fresh face to kind of get through this muck. Welcome to the show for the very first time, Brian Hartman.
Allez hop, banana, c'est tiré, c'est barré, enfin c'est marre à tout casser, l'évier, le bar me laissant seul, comme un grand connard. Le pied dans le plat, ça plane pour moi.
Welcome to the show, Brian.
Jack, welcome. Thank you for bringing me in. I'm like caught off guard. A hell of an intro there. It's the best one I've had. I love it.
Yeah, we upgraded intros for the worst fantasy show. Hey, we might be the worst, but we like to be low-key the best when it comes to the intros and outros. So we appreciate you coming on the show. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself and kind of the work that you do in the fantasy space and otherwise?
I'm just like everybody else, fantasy degenerate, trying to find other people that love the things that I love just as much. I do help out on the QBLists.com. I'm a big part of their podcast over there. I write an article from time to time, doing shows for Dynasty Pros as well. And then, you know what? I just can't get enough of it, so I've started my own stuff. I've got my own fantasy football, Too Much Fantasy Football podcast. And, of course, you know, I'm a big fan of movies, big fan of laughing. So I've also got a Too Much Movie Night podcast for you know, that rare minute in the week that you don't want to think about football. And, you know, that's what that's there for.
Shout out to the Too Much Movie Night podcast, though. I listened to my first episode the other day, which was the This Is the End podcast, because that's an old favorite of mine. You know, for the few out there that watch this show that somehow haven't seen it, obviously Seth Rogen, James Franco. I've often been compared to Seth Rogen in my life. So yeah, that's a natural fit. I really enjoyed that podcast. I'm looking forward to checking out a couple more episodes, but I really enjoyed, you know, I'm the kind of person where it's like, yeah, I don't want to think about fantasy and football 24/7 as much as I love it. I do have room in my brain for other thoughts, and movies is definitely a big part of that for me. But we are focusing on the fantasy football today. We're here for the tight end series, the top 10 tight ends coming in for the rookie ranks as far as Dynasty is concerned. So since you are the guest, why don't you start us off with probably the most obvious number one for any of the categories that we've had this year?
Yeah, I mean, I find it appropriate here where we are on the worst fantasy show. So let's talk about the worst fantasy position. You know, like I feel like kickers are more consistent than you have with tight ends. But yes, we are going to start off with the best tight end out there. And it's AJ. No, I'm just kidding, folks. We all know who it is. It's Brock freaking Bowers coming out of Georgia, 6'3", 243. I mean, I say that as a large human being, like 6'3", but he's actually coming in a bit undersized compared to some of these other like behemoths. But, like, is there a knock to say on this guy outside of him looking goofy next to Gronk at the Combine? Like, this kid does it all.
Yeah, I mean, as much as he does it all, here's my thing, okay? I'm out. I'm out as far as drafting him in the first round of your Dynasty rookie drafts in 10-man formats. You can talk me into it. In the back, like very back at the turn. Like if you're at 110 and he slid to you down there, you don't like any of the wide receivers anymore. You're good at running back. You don't want to take the shot there. I get it. but it's just the history of tight ends. And then I'm looking at where potentially is Brock Bowers going to land, because that's like a big thing for me and that's been a recurrent theme throughout this entire series, of that these are obviously pre-draft rookie ranks that will be annihilated the second the draft happens. Now, Brock Bowers, his position is entrenched kind of no matter where he lands. But as I'm parsing through those potential landing spots, and I'm looking at what I see as a maximum upside. So let's just pretend he has Sam Laporta's rookie season. I think Sam Laporta just put in potentially one of the greatest rookie seasons we've ever seen. And actually, when you look at the numbers, it's a little underwhelming. It's because it's the tight end position. 86 for 889 and 10 touchdowns. So that to me is like your max ceiling. Maybe he's the first since Kyle Pitts to cross 1,000 yards. But famously, Kyle Pitts did that with one touchdown and sucked for fantasy. Like,
right.
If he lands in the wrong spot with potentially a quarterback that maybe is overrated in the sense of how they use the tight end position. So a perfect example is one of the spots I was looking at real hard was the Jets. I think if
I like
with
that one.
Jets, a lot of people like that landing spot, except that Aaron Rodgers traditionally has never really used his tight end to supreme efficiency, even in his youngest and most mobile and athletic and best days as a quarterback. And he's going to be coming off an ACL. And if Rodgers doesn't make it through the year again, we saw the litany of quarterbacks that they had to deal with last season.
Whoa. We're not shaming Boyle now, are we? Come on. That was an agreement coming on the podcast here.
Yeah, I remember superstar Mike White. Like, I feel like they regretted letting him go, honestly.
100%.
So, like, when Joe Flacco's doing things in Cleveland when he could have been on your roster the whole. So again, the quarterback room was a mess. Maybe they fixed some of the backup positions, but like, that's it to me, just such a huge if and question mark, to where I think Bowers statistically for fantasy could struggle for the first 2 years, kind of the way we've seen with Kyle Pitts, because it is very dependent on scheme, landing spot, quarterback, everything around you. And then also, please don't get injured, Brock Bowers, who's already dealing with, I know it's just a high ankle, but still, it's indicative of like once he gets to that NFL level, and you said he is a little bit undersized. So the argument for me is that when I was doing the wide receiver class, there's wide receivers like Brian Thomas Jr., I feel like is super underrated. I would take him 100 times over Brock Bowers. I love Brock Bowers. I think Brian Thomas could be a potential superstar at the wide receiver position. If they're at the same spot, like again, from like 1.8 to say 112, I'd rather have him. Like some of the top guys are going to keep pushing it down. So like in Superflex especially, you're going to see the quarterbacks mixing in. But let's just, for the sake of argument, even go single quarterback. You're going to see Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, probably Rome Odunze for sure. Depending on landing spot, I think you could see Blake Corum for sure go in front. There's a couple other wide receivers that, again, depending how they mix it. So it's like you're going to have to almost pay up for them to a point of, I would just rather take the shot on one of those wide receivers. And the other problem is there's way more tight ends suddenly in the NFL that we are interested in with Laporta, McBride. Honestly, I would buy low on Evan Ingram, who's coming off one of his best seasons.
100%.
Like, people act like he's not great. And I'm like, pay a second rounder for Evan Ingram instead of using your first for Brock Bowers, and then just use your first on a wide receiver or something else to replace what you know what I'm saying? Like you kind of that mentality of like, there's other tight ends that I feel like are going to be just as good as Bowers. I'm not paying up for that premium price unless he lands in like the absolute perfect spot with the absolute perfect quarterback. Like, but even still, it's generationally, it hasn't been great for rookie tight ends.
Yeah, I think it's all about that landing spot. Like, not to take away anything from Sam Laporta's year, because it was great, but this was also a year that Travis Kelce was not the top of the top. Mark Andrews was down. So, that path to number one would have been, just that much easier. And it's not necessarily that we're shitting on rookie tight ends. They have all of the ability to do it in most cases, but it's that opportunity. Not many times do we see guys like Sam Laporta walk into a team and automatically become the number 2 target. There's nobody else on the Lions team that was going to fight for that number 2, receiving spot outside of Amon-Ra. So it's all about that landing spot. It's all about those extra intangibles. And honestly, those people that were hyping up Kyle Pitts, taking him top 3, top 4 in their rookie drafts, they've been pissed. You know why they've been pissed? Because I've been picking up Kyle Pitts over the last year and a half for dirt cheap compared to what he was going for. So on that off chance that Brock Bowers gives us a top 5 rookie tight end season, I'd still rather take that chance on a wide receiver that could blow up and go get Brock Bowers in a year or two, at probably a discounted rate of what he's going at now. I mean, it all depends on what he does, but yeah, 100%, same pool. I hate taking rookie tight ends. I'll take the L if they blow up because it's like, 8% or less that they actually do it.
Well, it's not even just that it's 8% or less that they do it. It's that when they do actually blow up, it's not the same kind of blow up as, a wide receiver that blows up is you're talking 12 to 1,400 yards and 8 to 10 touchdowns. A tight end that blows up is 600 to 800 yards and the same 8 to 10 touchdowns. So it's such a huge disparity. And yeah, a lot of leagues have gone the way of tight end premium, but I don't see with Laporta, you said he walked right into being the second target. It wasn't just that though. He walked right into being the second target on an ascending team with the perfect quarterback that loves to throw over the middle to the tight end in the perfect scheme with a good offensive line, with the coach that was a former tight end that could amplify his. Are you kidding me? With all of these caveats of ifs and buts that I don't think are going to line up the same way for our Brock Bowers, I could see him being lamented more on like the Kyle Pitts side of yeah, if he goes to an offense where he's not used right. Now, if he does fall into, again, anything Shanahan-y or, McVay, like those style offenses, then yeah, I'll be more in on it. But again, there's so many dudes right now, especially after I finish my – I'm just more enamored, honestly, with all of the wide receivers, like the top 5 wide receivers, basically. And to me, I had Brian Thomas even ahead of Roma Duns, which was a little bit of a reach, you could say. But I just feel like he's a true superstar in the making. But going back to the tight ends, there's so many in the NFL that I feel like I can get on a discount, including Kyle Pitts, even though now he potentially could see an ascension in a better offense. I'm out on Brock Bowers and what you have to pay for him right now. That's kind of just, it's the price is too rich for my blood.
100%.
We spent a lot of time on number 1 though. And I think rightfully so though, because this is the tight end episode. So the amount of time we spent on number 1 will probably blow through 5 to 10 just as quickly.
Yeah, we're about to jump off the cliff here. It's about to get real boring up in here.
Well, so the next 2 guys on the list, I actually really like them. And then to me, it's a huge cliff drop. But why don't you go ahead with your number 2? Let's see if it's any different than mine.
Going into the combine, I had a kid out of Texas. I thought he was going to be my number 2. I thought it was easy slam dunk. But I got to say, I fell in love with this combine. And I know what you're saying. Brian Hartman must have been falling in love with Sam Hartman's hair. No, it wasn't Sam. Sam was, he was the second one. It was Theo Johnson. This dude is freaking incredible from an athletic standpoint. This is 6'6", 259. Oh my gosh, watching this dude move, you could actually see the earth move when he ran his 40. I swear, the camera wasn't shaking, it was the ground shaking. This dude, another, freak athlete coming out of Penn State, so, not completely shocking there. The numbers he did in college were, they were what they were, but what I like to do in fantasy football with NFL tight ends, I shoot for the most athletic guys. Your Evan Ingrams, your David Njoku's, I'm going to say it, it's going to hurt me, but your OJ Howards, stuff like that. These guys that have the ability to take the top off in an NFL defense. Because if you're just, a good blocker, you're a sound catcher, but you don't have that top end speed or some of that athleticism, you're just not going to make it. Or you're not going to have that ability to break that top 6, top 4 in tight end. Because if you're a tight end 9, that's nothing special. That's not, I mean, come on. Tyler Conklin can be a tight end 9. And not to shit on Tyler Conklin, but yeah, it's Tyler Conklin. So Theo Johnson, I think if he falls in that right spot, goes to an offense that's high flying, maybe he goes to the Colts, something like that, just as a homer here if we're looking in the background. But Theo Johnson is definitely right there above Sanders from Texas for me as my number 2.
Man, that is spicy take. I love it. I have him at number 4, actually. So I still have 2 guys ahead of him. I fell in love with the size, like you said. He's tough. He's a traditional tight end. He can do it all. He's impressive at the combine. Really hard to bring down. It wasn't just he ran a 4.57 40. He also had a 39.5-inch vertical, and I think it was 10.5 on the broad jump. So that was really impressive too. When you can get that high and that far in terms of your leaping ability as a 6'6", 260 pounder, I was very impressed by him. But you mentioned Texas. That was my number 2. I still have Ja'Tavion Sanders at number 2, and it's because here's my NFL comp for you tight end lovers out there. Ben Watson. Y'all remember Ben Watson?
It has been a bit since we talked about Bill Watson.
I know. But Ben Watson, famously tight end for the Patriots, kind of reminds me a little bit of a Ja'Tavion Sanders of he's got that traditional 6'4", 245 build. The 40 was a little bit slow, but he's just such a natural receiver of the football from the tight end position. From all of these guys, honestly, when I watch game tape, my biggest thing is eye test. When I watch a game tape, I can usually tell okay, that guy, he can do a lot of the standard things really well, but then there are guys that pop, and it's oh, that guy's special. And Ja'Tavion was one of those guys that, for me, his tape pops. Just his hands, he's got great hands through contact. He makes tough catches. He makes one-handers. He does lack a little bit of lateral movement. That was one thing I found concerning. But he works the middle and he works downfield. He's a willing blocker. The one thing he really needs to work on, I feel going to the next level that can ding him a little bit is, and this is where I almost was willing to slot him down 2 spots even. So I understand the Dylan Johnson thing, because I could have easily had Sanders as low as 4, but I have him at 2 because, again, as a natural receiving tight end, I felt he was the best of the bunch, and that includes even Brock Bowers. Bowers is more of a natural all-around athlete, makes really nice catches, and has a lot of yak plays that are really impressive, whereas Sanders, it's really, again, attacking the ball at the point of the attack, the kind of catches that he makes, working all levels of the field, just very sound football, again, from a receiving tight end. But the one thing I will say, he needs to work on his levels and his balance, because every time I watched him block, it was he's a willing blocker, but he's not an effective one all the time. And the other thing I found funny was, when you watch a guy stiff arm people, you can tell how strong he is almost because of is he moving backwards or are they moving backwards? And every time I watched him stiff arm someone, he was moving himself back 5 yards as opposed to moving them anywhere. So yeah, I agree. His levels a little bit, maybe lacks a little bit of traditional power at that spot. So he's maybe not the greatest blocker in terms of run blocking, but he'll put his body in the way. And I think he is a really good receiver. I think the Ben Watson comp is actually extremely apt and applicable to his game.
Yeah, he's great in space. Kind of giving me Travis Kelce vibes, just as far as being able to find that soft spot in the defense out there. I absolutely loved that. But yeah, I think it was just that 40 time. I was so disappointed because I wanted to come into this him being my number 2. But when you had a guy like Theo Johnson that ran the 40, the fastest 40 time since they've been recording back in 1987, the fastest 40 time for a guy over 250 pound or 255 pounds. So that alone just got me all hot and bothered. But Sanders, he is my number 3. He's right there at that cusp. I liked it a lot. I think he's got some great ability, but yeah, blocking, like you kind of said, I think there's some misses there for sure.
And I get that because stylistically, I think this gets overlooked a lot of the time too, is coaches do different things, right? So a perfect example is, why did Kyle Pitts not fit with Arthur Smith? I said from the beginning that was never going to work, and I'll tell you why. Because Arthur
Smith sucks. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he does, but he sucks because the best coaches change their styles to the players that they have. Arthur Smith doesn't do that. He wants the players to fit to his style. And he runs top 2 tight end percentage in the league. So the 2 tight end sets, more than anybody else in the NFL. That's Arthur Smith's game, is 2 tight end sets, which is basically a lot of heavy run blocking, power football shit. Great potentially for the Pittsburgh Steelers where he's landed now, which I think a lot of Steelers fans were like, no, Arthur Smith. But that's the type of place where you can make the players fit your mold, and him having a power offense could actually be very beneficial. It was the complete opposite in Atlanta. In Atlanta, you've got all these track studs all of a sudden, and you're forcing them to play 1950s power football. It's the stupidest shit I've ever seen in my life. He deserved absolutely to be fired. He was a horrible fucking head coach, and he acted like an asshole, an entitled asshole, pretty much the entire year. So it wasn't
petty son of a bitch.
Dude, some of this fucking body. I hate when they got on other coaches about body. I didn't hear shit about Arthur Smith's body language all year. Fucking huffing and puffing and acting like a fucking. He acted like a baby all year. Entitled rich brat. That's exactly what he is, and it's how it came across.
Which is funny because with that mustache, he wasn't allowed to be around babies or children. So, it's just funny how that all ties in.
But yeah. So it's like a long-winded way of saying that, if if you land in an offense that is not going to fit. So Jatavian Sanders, if I was a coach or a GM, personally, the type of offense that I run, and when I say that, I'm talking about it's jokingly, but yeah, when I play Madden, I always play with Pittsburgh Steelers offense because it's designed a certain way, and it's a lot of power offense, and I basically play a lot of single RB under center. I don't like to use a lot of shotgun. Shotgun is honestly bullshit. It's a waste of fucking time. This is like a whole other fucking discussion to have at some point.
Madden hot takes. I love it.
But man, I hate shotgun formation so fucking much. It's not a pro style offense. It's bullshit. All right. It's bullshit. You can create the same fucking spacing under center. There's not a fucking single reason that you shouldn't be doing it. Plus, you can get the ball out faster and use a variety of different plays, and it's easier to check out of. Anyways, if I, like I said, so I have in my mind a way that I run my offenses. If I was building a team, 100% I would take Theo Johnson above Jatavian Sanders for my own offense. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I kind of like that you had him as high as 2 because I get that. He is a more traditional, big body blocking guy, but with receiving skills and speed and leaping ability. So I was very impressed by him, but I have him at 4. And, we've talked about a few guys. I think my favorite might be my number 3. And I almost put him at number 2, but it was hard because I'm worried. I'm worried where he's going to land and how he's going to get used. Ben Sinnott, though, is Mike Alstott with better hands. Literally, this guy is 6'4", 250, 4'6", 840. Okay, a little bit slow on the 40. That's fine. 40-inch vertical, 10.5-foot broad jump. Hit 6'8", on the 3-cone. Which I was like, dude, sub 7 on a 3-cone for a tight end / fullback.
Crazy.
That's impressive. 423 on the shuttle, still good. He is strong at the point of the attack. He is the best blocker in my top 3. So in terms of Bowers, Sanders, and Sinnott, it's not even close. In fact, the only guys who come close are dudes as big as Theo Johnson. Like
Yeah.
literally, you have to be like. There's another guy. He didn't make my top 10, but Tip Ryman, shout out to him. He's a huge dude, 6'5", 270. Like he was another one that like you had to be one of those huge monsters to equal the blocking of Ben Sinnott. Like Sinnott is a monster out there, and like I said, he's a fullback tight end hybrid, makes tough catches. He's hard to bring down, versatile, mobile, agile. This guy does it all, but if he ends up in the wrong offense, I'm worried how he ends up getting used. But again, I said earlier, if Brock Bowers ends up in like a Shanahan's offense, this guy even more so. And there's one other guy on my list where it's like if he lands in a Shanahan style or McVay style offense, it's going to be a fucking nightmare for NFL teams. He is one of them. Ben Sinnott, honestly, like I'm very, very interested in drafting him, depending on draft capital and where he lands, because I feel like he'll be so much cheaper than Brock Bowers. Like you'll
For sure.
probably easily get him in the second round, and maybe even like late second, early third, depending on how things shake out in the actual NFL draft. But I am super impressed with his game tape and what he offers as kind of like, again, like a hybrid. You know, imagine if Kyle Juszczyk could just fucking pop out at tight end and start running fucking George Kittle routes. Like, that's what this guy does.
Yeah, I think he's, as far as like the athletic ability, I would probably put him, oh man, he might be top 2 for me, easily top 3, but this kid is unreal there. As far as hands go, I think he's good, not great. But of course, that's usually something that can grow and they can work on and build. The athletic ability, his footwork, the way his legs move, that's something that they can't always teach. A decent blocker, I did feel like from the things I saw, I felt like he could be overpowered by some of the bigger defensive ends. Kind of like you said, you know, you put a Theo Johnson on the other side of him, he's probably going to get thrown around. So at this next NFL level, I do worry about that. But at the same time, I think he's built more like a Kyle Pitts. Maybe not necessarily used like Kyle Pitts because Arthur Smith was there. But ideally, we're going to use him more in a role like that. Kind of how we saw Kincaid be more of a pass catcher than a blocker this past year. So if we... It's all situational. Where do we get these guys? But I do think also with the great wide receiver class, these tight ends, they're going way the fuck back there. Let's put them deep second, maybe third round picks, and that's where you just start throwing them left and right. So there's no cost to you at all, but all the upside in the world. And I think this guy has it absolutely there. I've got him right there at 4 for me.
Yeah, I agree with you for the blocking out of the tight end position. And obviously, this is the tight end show. He's being drafted, technically speaking, as a tight end. But in college, they use a lot of these like bullshitty tight end screens where it's like a lot of times I'm like taking that tape and having to just fucking chuck it out because it's like they're not doing that at the NFL level for the most part. And, you know, that's not exactly like the type of tape that you can really rely on for their athleticism because like anybody can take a screen through a giant ass hole. I could get 5 yards out of that. You know what I'm saying? But what I loved from him was again when they would do either split back or trips, which is like a split back with a running back, kind of like in a diamond formation is what they'll also call it a lot of times. Out of those formations, he was ridiculous. Like when he would have to pick up a blocker there, or you get him blocking in space where he's getting that lead. Because I agree with you, if he's just going to be like at that tight end position and have to pick up a defensive lineman, he absolutely can get overpowered because of the size. He needs that running start. You give him that. That's where the blocking can get scary. That's where I was more leaning towards like, yeah, you change his entire blocking style almost of like, he's way better at doing that than traditional stuff. That's why I had Dylan Johnson right there for me at number 4. And it was because of all the things that we've said. And honestly, the last 3 guys we mentioned, you could mix them in any order, like put them in a bag, mix the bag and pull it out. Honestly, I'd be fine with it.
What was that? Mixing the bag?
Yeah.
Is that what that was?
Jesus Christ.
Oh man. Yeah, I think we're getting to the point where it's most of these guys, it's a crapshoot, and I think that is the beauty of all of their prices are going to be about the same down there in the lower seconds, third round pick. So yeah, we're taking risks here, but it's fun risk, and you just kind of follow in your gut with who's the best athlete to grab. And this dude's definitely a good gamble, that's for sure.
Did we get to your number 4, or did we skip over it?
He is my number 4.
Oh, okay. Sanada is your number 4. Okay, perfect. So let's get your number 5 then.
Number 5, it's been a carousel with like 5, 6, 7. I've been rotating them through. I can't decide, so I'm gonna jump on.
8 for me.
I'm gonna go with Cade Stover from Ohio State. This guy, as far as the blocking comes, this is one of my favorites. I don't know if you saw the video. Did you see his cow massaging videos?
No.
Yeah, so evidently this dude rubs himself some cows, rubs them down because he says it helps strengthen his hands and works the leather before it becomes leather, I guess. I don't know. I sat there and watched it way longer than I should have.
That is fucking weird, dude.
But this fella, he's got to be one of the top 2 or 3 as far as blocking goes. He does not have the top end speed, so he's not going to be taking anybody to the house. But as far as being that, Jason Witten type, he's going to be a great blocker, go out there and catch these shorter passes. He's a possession guy. He's got the strong hands. He's got ladies, strong hands right there. You got to love that. But I just don't think he has that quite athletic ability that I'm falling in love with the Theo Johnsons and the Jatavian Sanders.
Yeah, that's why I have him actually a little bit further down at 7 for me. I didn't know about the cow massaging. Maybe I could put him higher, but I feel like cow tipping would be like more beneficial to like what he's trying to do and accomplish. But cow massaging, that's what I will say. Weird like aside, I just watched a random TikTok earlier. There's like that one really muscular dude with like the long curly hair. I'm sure everybody knows him. He's like always doing like TikTok videos and shit. He's very like social media guy. But he's like one of these bodybuilders, and it's him and this rock climber and are just trying to like lift. It's like a thing of weights. It's like 160 kilos or pounds or whatever it was. And they gotta lift it with one hand. The bodybuilder can't fucking lift it. And the rock climbing guy, who's like a lot skinnier, just keeps doing it fucking easy because it's the grip strength of rock climbing. So maybe fucking Cade Stover, I know maybe in Ohio there's not as many rocks to climb, but Jesus Christ, man, maybe try some rock climbing instead of massaging cows. Maybe keep that one to yourself too. Like, yeah, I'm out here massaging cows, you guys. Like,
yeah, it might have been one of those he got caught doing it and then he just embraced it. It's like, yeah, this is a normal thing, you just gotta massage the cows.
Wax on, cow off.
Yeah, did you guys not see Karate Kid 2? It was in the deleted cut. Come on.
All right. My number 5 was again, I could have fucking any of these guys I could have flipped them around, but I ended up going with Jared Wiley out of TCU. So him, I liked his size, 6'6", 249, ran a 4.62, 37-inch vertical, so not bad. Nice traditional size. He's just a nice route runner with good hands. He finds separation in space. He had good game speed, which I felt like didn't translate to the 40. He a lot of times like he would be quicker in and out of his cuts than you would expect for like his routes. Again, just more of a little bit more polished of a receiver, I felt like, than Cade Stover, who was just kind of more of like an all-around tight end. So yeah, at this point, it's like you're throwing darts anyways, but for me, it was Wiley, Coyote, a little bit over Burn Your Hand on the Stover.
I don't hate it, man. Yeah, like you said, at this point, which one of these is going to be the best. It's like trying to figure out who's the best, the head cashier at Walmart. They're nothing special. They're all the same. Nothing crazy here. But
no, especially these days, it's just fucking self-scanners.
No kidding.
Yo, rob self-scanners. Just your little fucking ad. I don't do ads on this show, but here is a sponsored ad from me. Rob the fuck out of self-scanners in grocery stores because they're robbing you.
That's for damn sure. God, I fucking one of the first times I interacted with one of those. I was in college, broke as shit, and I was with a buddy, and like we had bought like they sold sushi at the store, but it was like $10 a pop, right? So I'm going through scanning stuff, and I scanned a candy bar and then dropped the sushi over there on the thing. And my buddy's like, "Hey, Brian, you didn't scan that." I'm like, "I know, shut up." He goes, "No, you didn't scan it." I'm like, the lady that's watching the area, she's walking closer. I'm like, "Dude, shut up, shut up." And God, it was so freaking awkward. He didn't put it together till we left, but fuck those
It's
scanners.
funny because, as a millennial, I've come full circle with self scanners because when they first came out, the old person in me was like, "Fuck self scanners! I want a person. What is this bullshit?" And now I will use self scanner every single time if I have the option. Like
100%.
if I don't have to talk to a person, I can just scan my shit, pay and leave. Like fuck yeah, I'll do that almost every time. So it's funny how I'm definitely perpetuating the problem. I can't even act like I don't use them.
Oh yeah, I love it. I'll bag my own shit. Thank you. I got it. It's fine. You don't have to put my eggs on top of my bread anymore.
Before I get off on a whole other fucking tangent, who's your number 6?
Oh, number 6. Shit. I don't want to say. No, I'm just kidding. It's bad at this point, but we're gonna go to Michigan. We're gonna do a little AJ Barner action. As being a big, tall fellow myself, I got a soft spot for these big 6'6" guys. So when I see that, it's usually the good makeups of something. Now, he didn't do a whole lot at the combine, and by a whole lot, he stepped on a damn scale, and that's really all he did. But for Michigan, they ran the ball a lot. Obviously, as we're getting all this J.J. McCarthy talk, we didn't get a lot of see. So we know the kid can block well. Sled drills, I remember watching that at the combine. I wasn't very impressed, despite him being a pretty good blocker. Gauntlet drills, he did look decent. But I think this guy might be the overall, I think he's ranked as the best blocker in the class. So whether that translates or not, it probably won't for fantasy football. But just as far as overall tight end athlete, I do think he's going to be one of the better ones that we see come out of this class.
I'm starting to think I might be a Michigan hater because in my quarterback list, which ironically enough, so breaking the fourth wall, we're filming this before I do the quarterback show, which I'm doing later today. And even though the quarterback show is going to release first, this was going to release last. Quarterbacks was actually the last position that I did, and someone already gave me shit because now I'm forgetting the kids. Oh no, Joe Milton the third. I have him really fucking high.
I've liked Joe Milton
above JJ McCarthy, because to me McCarthy isn't really anything special, and that's kind of how I felt about the tight end too. But yeah, I have Joe Milton the third as high as 4, which is gonna
he could stick JJ McCarthy in his pocket. He's so big.
I know.
But, I went from 6 to midnight watching that dude do his finger point after he dropped that pass.
Yo, seriously, people are sleeping on Joe Milton III. I feel like a GM is going to fall in love with him, and the draft capital is going to be way higher than people expect. And then all of a sudden, people are like, "Oh my god, fantasy Joe Milton!" I'm like, "Yeah, I was on it. I saw it."
He's a value brand Anthony Richardson. I love it.
I actually think he might be better than A-Rich, honestly.
Okay, easy there. We got to look at the Colt stuff back here.
I love A-Rich. That's a totally separate discussion, but your boy A-Rich, real good, needs to learn to slide. I cannot watch this man run face first into NFL linebackers anymore. Jesus fuck, man. Just slide. Go down. Go down. You are not big. You are not that big. Bro, I know you're big, but you're not going to fucking be running into fucking Joey Bosa every game and fucking coming out of it unscathed. What are you doing?
Yeah, a few more stiff arms for me, buddy.
Yeah. But yeah, my number 6 the thing I was trying to say about Barner is I don't even have him in my top 10. He's one of my snubs. But my number 6, and this is again where I think this is where the tight end position is starting to go. And I'm starting to do this with the running backs as well. I think a lot of the NFL is shifting to, and I mean, it's a shitty comp, but it's the best comp, but also the worst comp, but it's Aaron Hernandez. I think there's a couple guys in this draft that could be Aaron Hernandez.
I might have to shoot you down on that one.
Field, not outside of it. And this guy, Jaheim Bell, reminds me a lot of Aaron Hernandez. And I'm talking about the actual game tape out of Florida State. 6'2", 241, ran a 4.6, 140, which honestly, that's not what he runs. Like in terms of his game speed, this is why 40s to me are like not the end of the world. Because like game speed is a different thing. And when I watch this guy on tape, he is so much quicker on tape than he showed out at the combine. But he has hybrid ability. You know what he reminds me of? Thick Debo. He is thicker Debo Samuel at 6'2", 240. Like the way they used him in screen games a lot of the times was a lot like I was like, am I watching Debo Samuel at the college level right now? He could also, go downfield. He could break tackles. He was agile. He had, he had some nice moves, made some nice spin moves, but he was making plays downfield, doing it all at the receiving level. Again, obviously not going to be the greatest blocker at 6'2", 240, but that's not what he is going to be if he's used correctly at the next level. He could be an extremely the type of game breaking tight end. Again, I keep going back to Aaron Hernandez because the last time we saw two very different tight ends on an NFL field being used in a way where it was maximizing the capabilities of both. It was like Aaron Hernandez, I think people forget, was unfucking coverable because you already had to deal with all this other bullshit, and then all of a sudden the second tight end is now gonna burn the shit out of your backup linebacker. Like it's not even fair. So again, a little bit offense dependent, but I mentioned earlier some of the guys that if they land in a Shanahan in the offense, oh my god, like this is the type of guy of Jaheim Bell. He lands in San Francisco. Watch out.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's so weird, just his size. You'd think he'd just be a big receiver and just switch positions, but breakout age at the age of 20, I think that's a huge spot as well. We only saw 4 touchdowns from him the last couple of years, but that's also the Florida State offense. You got to take what you're given here. It's a very different sample size. Just having to pull from these colleges, whether it be, division of these schools, what school it actually is. But I think Jaheim Bell, I think he's great. I think he's exciting to see what team grabs him and where they use him. But I think that's going to be the key is, kind of like what you were saying. It's all about how you use this guy. But the athletic intangibles are just off the charts. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, he presents crazy potential mismatches. I think there's a coach out there. Again, when I think of Shanahan and McVay, the way they look for mismatches on an NFL field, I think they might look at a guy like Bell and be like, damn, the shit I could do with that guy at my tight end 2 spot. Like, especially, like I said, if he were to land in San Fran and you've already got George Kittle still there established, like that could be just money for that team. And again, even for fantasy, like he could have low end tight end 2 value already in a rookie draft, which is like probably none of these guys that we're talking about are going to have any kind of fantasy relevance. So we're looking for the ones that might.
Right. I'm putting a blocker like AJ Barner on this list. These are fantasy tight ends we're talking about, and I'm jacking it up with this guy who's just,
No, but you know what? You say that, but again, I also want to preface that this is dynasty. So it's not like he has, finding your way onto the NFL field is step one. The way that most NFL tight ends are going to do that is by being better at blocking than receiving off the bat. So actually, there's a better chance that a guy like a Barner, who's a more traditional fit for most of these coaches that are fucking dolts, that's another thing of like, I hate how NFL coaches act like this is fucking rocket scientists when like 28 of them are just dog shit at their jobs. But like, it's like if you can't figure out how to use a Jaheim Bell in your offense, that's your own fucking problem. But it's because most of them are going to want, like the Cade Stovers or the Barners of the world, like those more traditionally built tight ends. But speaking of Stover, I had him at number 7. Who was your number 7?
Oh man, this is gross. I don't want to talk about it. But there's a guy that didn't even make my list, but like he's just got so many talking points. I want to bring him out. So maybe I'll swap him into my 10th spot. But maybe fuck. All right, let's go Trey Knox out of South Carolina. Again, not a big guy, not a great specimen, but he's got a handful of those things that I look for. He ran a 4.54 at the 40. I'm sorry, looking at the shuttle time there. That's embarrassing. But no.
Long shuttle.
Maybe that's why I put him in the 10. Shit. I need to look at my stuff. But, like you said, we're getting down to the nitty gritty of these tight ends. Not really, we didn't have many that jumped off the board for me. So it's kind of a crapshoot when you get down to this point after you get out of these, the Ben Sinnots, the Jaheim Bells, the Stovers, the Barners. I don't know. Where are you going on 7?
So 7 is where I had Stover, but at 8 is actually kind of perfect because I feel like every time I do one of these lists, so there's a couple of things. Number one, I obviously live up in Canada, in Quebec, Canada. So I'm not like super into college ball, and I don't really watch any of it at all. Like I'll watch a couple bowl games here and there, if it's on kind of thing. Or if like I'm visiting the States, like I'll go to literally any game because I have no affiliation. I don't give a shit. There's too many colleges. I don't understand the way that they break down the stupid fucking conferences. It's all dumb to me. But like, so this is where I come in a lot of the times is this time of year of like this is the first time I'm seeing a lot of these guys, right? So I feel like I don't have a lot of the preconceived notions that maybe other analysts that are really into Dynasty or really into Devy or really into fucking this, that, or the super nerds out there for fantasy football have known about these guys for years. Some of them since college or since high school, sorry, is what I was trying to say. Whereas like, again, this is my first time seeing any of these people. And so I end up doing my list. And what I always do is I take, I'll get a list of the guys in alphabetical order so that I don't have any preconceived notions of where they're supposed to be ranked. And then I will do my individual study and I will do my list. And then I will match my list to the actual rankings. And more often than not, my shit is way the fuck out of whack compared to what the traditional ranking is. And then I will make a couple adjustments. And I'm like, okay, obviously – there's something I'm not seeing or not understanding or missing. I maybe didn't do enough research on this guy, that guy, that guy. I'll go back, kind of double check, readjust my rankings, and then that's my final product, right?
Yeah.
There's always a guy. I mentioned earlier for the quarterbacks, it's Joe Milton III. For the running backs, I kind of forget who it was. I had a couple weird guys for wide receivers that people were like, what the fuck? And for tight end, here it is at number 8. The all this buildup was for Devin Culp. Devin Culp out of Washington doesn't even crack a lot of people's top 10 lists, but this guy at the combine went and ran a 4.47 40 for a tight end. He is 6'3", 231. So obviously he's a little bit undersized, but he is one of these guys that is big wide receiver more than he is really a tight end. But in the right system, he's got hands. This man's making downfield catches, sideline catches. He's breaking tackles. He's got great long speed, and he had to deal with a left-handed quarterback because he had Michael Penix as his quarterback. I think that's underrated. People don't always think about like, your entire offense is backwards when you have a left-handed quarterback. Whenever you are used to running your entire life, you essentially now have to learn how to do the opposite because a left-handed quarterback sees the field literally the opposite way. Think about it. You're holding the ball this way. This side is going to be what you see first, and you're looking over your shoulder at the rest. And if I go this way, well, now it's the complete fucking opposite, isn't it? And the tight end and the receivers have to adjust to that. So that already to me is like, okay, not only are you fast as fuck and making like really nice catches, you're already doing it in kind of an awkward system with a left-handed quarterback, meaning if you end up in a more traditional system, like in your whole life, you might do even better.
Right. You send him down to Miami, he's going to be,
I mean, yeah, even if so, but that's the thing is like, so if he does end up in a Miami, like he could still be very useful. And actually, he would be fucking. If he had a guy like Devin Culp, that would be just unfair because when you can't cover Tyreek or A-Shane at level 1 and level 3, what the fuck are you gonna do when suddenly there's a guy that fast at level 2?
Yeah.
Like that could be again. Mike McDaniel is from that Shanahan tree, so he kind of falls under that like Shanahan and Ganny style offense of like if a guy like this falls there, holy shit, I will take that shot because he's virtually unknown. He's gonna go like you're gonna get him late third, early fourth rookie round. You might even get him undrafted, honestly, just off scraps after the rookie drafts, depending how deep your league is. But man, I am super interested in Devin Culp, I gotta say.
I get that. And most teams they shoot that shot, they want those athletic guys. But then there's that other end of the spectrum. And sometimes that guy may be sitting on that spectrum. But we got to talk about a guy, Tip Riemann. He's not even going to make my top 10 list. He's from Illinois, but I just had to bring him up. This is the kid that doesn't believe in pigeons. He says he's never seen a baby pigeon. He thinks that electrical lines are the charging ports for pigeons. That's why they go up on. Yeah, I'm like, dude, you are trying to make a career here. This is a comment that is costing you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. This kid is going to fall down the freaking draft because he just says he doesn't believe in birds. Now, I'm a big tall guy myself. I hate birds. They fly close to you. They're erratic. They're crazy. You can't predict it. But I'm pretty sure they're real. And again, there's no fantasy relevance to this asshole. But oh my God, I could not let us walk out of the show without at least bringing this kid up.
That is such a great tie-in because I've actually brought up that exact question on Wildcard Wednesday before. In terms of like, what's your favorite conspiracy theory? And one of the ones that came up was birds aren't real.
No shit.
I even made a short out of it because it's so funny to me that like you could believe birds aren't real, and that stems from like, well, they're robots, they're spying on us from the government. Like, you have an iPhone in your pocket, you asshole. And you think that they're going out of their way to make robot birds to spy on us? What the fuck are you talking about? That's worse than flat Earth, honestly. Like, that's like lizard people level. If you start talking some gobbledygook shit, it's like I might overlook the fact that you're 6'5", 271 and hit 28 on the bench at the combine. Because to me, he was like, I had him. He was my number 11, basically. He was my top honorable mention because he had surprisingly soft hands. He's a big boy that can work through contact, and obviously, like, with that size and the strength. But clearly, that came at a cost. And that cost was the book learning. My fuck.
Yeah, at 271, he's definitely going to be sitting as the sixth offensive lineman in most systems. But goodness, he's been smacked across the head too many times with those defensive ends. But hey, who knows? Maybe the kid's got it all right, and we're just the naive people that don't believe that those damn birds are fake.
No, I think that was great. That's a great reason to have him as a snub. Let's crack up the rest of this list and get out of here. Who's your number 9?
I've got Tanner McLaughlin from Arizona. Decent 40 time when compared to his 6'5" height and 244. Just another kid, popped on his tape for a little bit, and he had just enough of the things that I liked. Obviously when you go into YouTube and you type highlights for these players, you're not going to see all the bad ones, but athletic enough, decent blocker. Maybe he makes a splash in the NFL year 3.
That's the other thing so obviously, like, when I say I watch tape, I'm not watching tape of like every single guy and every play he's ever fucking snapped in his life. But I do like to do, obviously YouTube highlights is the quickest way, but I'll throw those on. I'm like, okay, what I look for the bad in the highlights, and then what I'll do is I'll go grab 1 or 2 condensed games where it's like these were some of their better performances. Because it's like, look, everybody has bad performances. I want to see what do you do wrong when you're at your best? Because to me, that's going to tell me more than trying to nitpick like someone who had a bad day. Like, I want to see you at your absolute max capacity, the best that you're able to be, and where do you fall short still in my eyes, like on a football field, right? Because then I have an idea of like, okay, well, those are the things really that are potentially weaknesses to their game, because even when you're playing at your fucking best level, you're not doing that. So I will use a combination of highlights and 1 or 2 game tapes, but I'm obviously not fucking like, I'm not throwing 18 game tapes for fucking, 15 different tight ends here. It's like, it's 1 highlight reel, 1 game tape. I'll do a couple read ups to make sure, because I usually don't know like their history or whatever, any major injury history and that kind of shit, but it's pretty, I would say it's like I'm spending maybe 10 minutes per guy. So it does take a while still. I would say it's a more deep dive than like your average viewer, but yeah, we're not fucking NFL scouts here or anything, right? And these are tight ends, and the scouts can't even fucking figure it out half the time. So, we're basically just going with guys we like. And for me, the guy I liked at number 9 was Dallin Holker, out of Colorado State. He just, again, these undersized guys, it's a little scary. His 40 wasn't the best. He ran a 4.78, but again, sub 7 on the cone, 6.83 on the cone, 4.21 shuttle. That's pretty good. And he's got good hands. Even in the combine, he had a really nice kind of one-handed grab where he was still holding the one ball, and I guess he didn't realize he was supposed to drop it, and then he ends up catching the other one in the other hand. That was that guy. Mm-hmm. So Dallin Holker was my number 9, and I'll just quickly wrap up number 10, and then you can hit us with your number 10. I ended up going with Eric All, the kid out of Iowa. 6'4", 252. I felt like it was too many screens. Every time I looked up, this kid's catching a fucking tight end screen, which again,
he had all the screens.
Is tight end U, so they're going to do a lot of that. But that to me doesn't equate to your game tape. In fact, I got to a point where I was like, oh, this guy's maybe not that great. And I almost was like about to tap out because I'm so fucking bored. And then finally, like, okay, he starts making like some contested catch and he starts showing he's a solid all-around guy. But for the most part, it was an average depth of target, nothing that really wowed me. But comparatively to the rest of these guys that made my honorable mentions, it's like if you're coming out of tight end U and you ran as many plays as you did and had the experience that you did and have a pretty solid, like I would say average to above average hands and route tree, you have, I feel like, more of a chance to make it at the NFL level than some of these other guys. So it's like, that's kind of where I just kind of ended up with him as my number 10. But, you mentioned Ryman was right there for me as like my next honorable. Tanner McLaughlin, AJ Barner. Those are Trey Knox too. Those are a couple of the other guys that I had in my honorables. I'll save my last 2 guys, but you can go ahead with your number 10. And if you had any random honorables you want to mention, you can tap them at the end too.
Yeah, Eric All was actually my 10. And this is purely based on Iowa. The guy's got some abilities, but when you're getting down to the 10th rookie tight end in a draft class, what can you hold on to? If the guy doesn't believe in birds, you got to hold on to something. So I'm going Iowa tight end U, and that's just really the only thing I'm holding on to this guy because we're so deep into this rookie class.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. Were there any random stragglers that we haven't talked about that managed to catch your eye at all?
Jack Westover, another guy out of Washington, kind of playing second fiddle there, but just, the size alone had me interested in a little bit. I didn't get to see as much work from him, obviously, but you just got to be comfortable with all these names that are going to be going in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round of NFL drafts. And, maybe in a year or two, we do see some kind of relevance come from them within the offense.
Yeah, he was lower on my list. It's funny because he was like the opposite of Ben Sinnott for me, where it's like he kind of looks like a fullback, but every time this guy was like getting tackled, he looked like he was getting absolutely fucking killed. Yeah. Like just like he makes bad decisions too. Like I really hate players that do that just make moves that seem like unnecessary. You know what I mean? Like like when you're trying to fight for yards, and it's like if you're gonna do a high hurdle, it's like okay, but it's like if you're gonna do a high hurdle in between like 3-4 guys for no fucking reason, land on your face and lose the ball, then yeah, I'm gonna judge you for it afterwards.
Right. Know your athletic ability.
That's what I'm saying. And it's like, well, not even your athletic ability, but like just high hurdles in general are like such a horrible, horrible idea if you're not straight like one-on-one with a guy who's already mid-tackle. Like it's you're basically just like saying, yeah, fucking end me over and let me drop on my noodle. So that was something, his tape I thought kind of sucked. And then he also didn't participate at the combine, so we didn't get to see that. The only other guy that we haven't talked about, a little bit underrated, but just a big body kid, probably going to be more of like a blocking type. His tape was just slightly above average. Brevin Spanford.
Kid out of Minnesota. I love it.
Minnesota. Minnesota is the closest thing in America that they have to Canada, by the way. Just
I was waiting for the accent to start like sliding out a little bit.
Yeah, that's the only place where it's like, honestly, if I was gonna move to the United States, most of those places scare me, but I would feel comfortable in Minnesota. Same weather, basically the same people, the funny accent. I think it's great.
Right? Yeah, I get that. Lots of snow. I get it. I'm down here in Virginia Beach, so like once it gets below 55, I'm freaking the fuck out.
Oh man, you'd be losing it here today. We got like fucking a foot of snow last night. It was brutal.
God, no thanks. Hard pass. I'm in shorts like 24/7.
Brian, you have been absolutely terrific for the Tight End Show. I super appreciate you being here, mucking it through the muck on the muckiest show around in terms of fantasy football. So one more time for the people out there, just tell us where we can find you.
You can find me on Twitter/X at @too_much_Brian. You can find me on QB List podcast articles. And then, of course, all my favorite shows. I've got Too Much Shenanigans and Too Much Movie Night.
Hell yeah. Make sure you guys go follow at @too_much_Brian. And if you made it this far into the show, why don't you super kick that subscribe button for us? Maybe share the show around a little bit because sharing is caring. And as always, I will catch you guys on the flip side.
He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs at the 50. He runs at the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms. Bare-chested. Somebody stop that man. Here comes